YouTubers who failed their pets. Having a pet is a sacred honor in my opinion. You're taking on a creature that depends on you for its very survival, and in return, you get unconditional love. For many of us, the mental health benefits of having this little creature that just loves you despite your deepest flaws is just immeasurable. I don't know where I'd be without my donut boys loving head bumps or my zesty girls judgmental stares. Both very different, both spark much joy. Today we'll be looking at some YouTubers who failed their pets. None of these are pleasant to hear about, but the final two are particularly grisly. They're not equal, they're all on a scale, but all of these things I find unacceptable or unfair to the babies. Logan Paul. Starting a little lighter with Logan Paul, he's had a lot of pets over the years, but the one that I'm mainly concerned with in this video is his Tibetan Mastiff known as Ginger. Here's a list of pets that lived under his roof. Kong the Pomeranian, who died in 2019 after a reported coyote attack. Arya the pit bull, who died in 2018 from surgery complications, but despite reports, I think she actually belonged to his housemate. King Broly the husky, rehomed in 2022, potentially to his videographer. Quinn the pit bull, his current dog. Sir the African grey, his current bird. Pearl the pig, who was rehomed and her adopter abandoned her in a field in 2023, where she was found and rescued. Pancake the albino soft-shelled turtle, who went to a habitat in 2018. Ginger the Tibetan Mastiff, officially rehomed in 2020 after attacking Maverick the parrot, who died in 2019 as a result. Although rehoming an animal is the correct thing to do if you can't care for them, just continuing the cycle and continually getting new animals after the fact just seems disrespectful. Failing to meet a pet's needs, for example, not having the space or the proper equipment for a pig, or not having the lifestyle amenable to a husky, that's one thing. But it's a whole nother issue when you set them up for failure and then punish them when they do inevitably fail. And that's exactly what happened with Ginger. Ginger is a Tibetan Mastiff, a primitive breed that has been inadvertently selectively bred to have an instinctual prey drive over thousands of years, in part to fulfill their ancestral duties as guardians. Ginger was allowed unfettered access to Maverick, and even though she'd been socialized to the bird since she was quite young, when it came down to it, he was still a prey animal. And all he had to do was move a certain way to spark her innate prey drive. It's something that she could not possibly have controlled with any amount of good intentions, even if she could comprehend what we consider good and bad. It's said that Ginger mistook him for a rubber bird toy, but that's just unnecessary personification. It really was an inevitability. It was one of those when, not if type of situations. During the discourse that we have publicly available about the situation, no one seemed shocked that they were unmonitored and untethered in the same location together, leading me to believe that that was just a normal experience. There's also this scene that he saw on his holidays of birds and cats hanging out together. Anecdotal, but he seemed unfazed by this, which just further leads me to believe that he thought prey animals and predators hanging out together was okay, was normal, that they could be friends. At first, Logan seemed to understand that he couldn't blame Ginger.
Bro, how am I gonna, I'm actually really excited to see Ginger. Really excited, I really missed her. But she also killed the most beloved animal of my life. How am I supposed to greet her? She's not gonna remember if I discipline her, so do I just act like nothing happened?
But his ambivalence is very evident in their reunion.
Yo! And you! Oh no!
I don't think he truly understood that the only failing here was the humans involved, either the ones who should have been keeping them separate or the person who was responsible for making the protocols to ensure that they were never unmonitored together in the same room. There's just a fundamental lack of understanding of natural drive here.
She ate and killed my bird Maverick the parrot. Very sad, may he rest in peace, but not only is she a murderer, she's done about $10,000 in property damage. She is a bad dog. We sent her away to bad dog camp and I haven't seen her in 4 months.
Are you a good dog yet? It's tough because she looks friendly and she looks nice. I really do love this animal. She's got Satan brewing inside her somewhere.
This really makes it seem like he's putting the blame on her for something only the humans are responsible for. She didn't make a malicious decision to harm Maverick. She has no understanding of consequences the way humans do, and she has this innate desire to harm small animals that we couldn't understand. Her carer on site put it quite well when she said,
"She's not gonna be good in the structure that you have her at home, that's all. She's not a bad dog."
She is a breed he didn't have the skills to handle, suffered a great loss for it, and then blamed her for it. It's just super unfair to every animal involved. Brooke Houts. quick recap for those unfamiliar with Brooke Houts, she accidentally uploaded an unedited video of her interacting with her dog, where she could be seen spitting on him, shoving him, slapping him, pinning him, and shouting at him in a really aggressive manner. I'm not going to show you the video, obviously it's awful, but I will play you this short sound clip of her screaming at him so you can see the type of interaction that they were having. All Sphinx did to inspire this anger in her was smack her with his big old puppy paws, which is something that is an inevitability when you allow your dog to jump up and you don't have clear boundaries with them. The worst part of all of this isn't that Brooke misunderstood positive punishment, which is a type of punishment where you add something unpleasant your dog doesn't like in order to decrease the likelihood of a behavior occurring in the future. It includes things like slip leads and pops on a prong collar and shouting at your dog, things like that. None of those things are things that I approve of at all, but that's what positive punishment is. The issue was that she knew that positive punishment was not a form of training that her dog responded well to, as shown by this tweet. Dogs don't respond well to punishment, especially not mine. They respond best to positive reinforcement of the things they're doing right. And when someone responded saying, well, my culture accepts hitting dogs, she said back to them, I encourage you to discipline your pets in a healthier and kinder manner. She knew better. She did it anyway. Brooke evidently struggled greatly to give her dog clarity and boundaries to operate within, as shown by some of these tweets that we're going to very briefly come up on screen now. These ones showing her dog destroy her tights because he didn't understand they weren't a toy or because he was lacking enrichment in general. And this one showing that Sphinx lacked clarity or opportunity to toilet appropriately. And then we have this one showing that Sphinx putting his paws in her face was something that was commonplace in their relationship, and her changing the rules on him suddenly was very unfair. In her tweet, non-apology, apology, she also made excuses for her actions, reading, when my 75-pound Doberman is jumping up in my face with his mouth open, I do, as a dog parent, have to show him his behavior is unacceptable. On either side of this, she made really weak statements about, oh, I still shouldn't have done it. But it was just a really shitty non-apology all round. She didn't really take any accountability or responsibility for what she did at all. She was just saying things weren't as bad as they look. She didn't do the things that we saw in the video happened. If your dog's jumping up at you with its mouth open, it's a failure on your part of training in the first place. And her excuse was very weak, saying that, oh, it's very, very expensive to get one-on-one training. When you're an influencer of that size, the expense of it isn't as prohibitive as it would be for someone who's living paycheck to paycheck. It was a really weak excuse. Disgusting behavior to do it in the first place, disappointing response afterwards, just a failure all round. The only good that we can take from this situation is that she eventually did rehome Sphinx, and hopefully he's healthier and happier in his new home than he would have been if he stayed with her. I want to round out this situation by touching on these tweets that I saw someone making of the situation, saying that it was unfair that she didn't get punished by the law and it was corrupt. The reason that she wouldn't have been punished is twofold. I used to work in rescue, and those reasons are, firstly, one, the laws make it very difficult to actually remove a dog from the home, and two, the rangers have a lot on their plates when it comes to saving dogs. They have a finite amount of time and resources available, and they have to use that to, as horrible as it sounds, prioritize the cases that really, really need the dogs to be removed. It's a hugely underfunded system, and a lot of the time shelters and rescues where the dogs would go when they're removed are also completely at capacity, so there's not always somewhere for the dogs to go without displacing another dog. So that's something else that has to be taken into consideration. That's why they're quite careful with it, with the dogs that they choose to remove. There's also a lot going on in your city that you would be shocked by. I mean, what might be going on down the street around the corner? You really wouldn't believe it until you see these stories and you see how common it is for people to be horrible to their dogs. It's really not nice. This is one of my foster dogs, for example. He was locked in a house with his brothers and sisters, 9 of them. None of them survived, just him. His mama also didn't survive. And he made it out and he was adopted and he's now living a happy, healthy life. But you wouldn't think that someone would do something like that, just leave a whole bunch of dogs in a house by themselves and abandon them completely. So the things that are going on out there that you haven't heard about would really shock you. Zak Catch Em. If you are sensitive to axolotl abuse, click off now. And thank you so much for joining me for as much time as you have. I really appreciate it. This channel did something I find truly disgusting, so let's work our way up so I don't start off the segment completely incensed. Firstly, he did not keep his axolotls well. He housed juveniles together who nipped at each other's feet down to stubs and took chunks out of each other's tails. He did not have sufficient enrichment for them or hides or anything like that to get away from each other or to feel nice and secure. He regularly handled them outside of water where they couldn't breathe. And he also used stress coat directly on them. Stress coat is something that you use for fish and you dilute it into the aquarium, whereas he poured it directly onto them, and it's got aloe vera in it, which is fine for fishies, but for the axolotl, it disrupts their slime coat, so not safe for them either. And on top of that, he fed them hot dogs. Hot dogs. They're not nutritionally complete for the axolotl. They probably had stuff in them that wasn't great for them, and they're not part of their natural diet. Have you heard of a hot dog anemone? No, of course not. Hot dogs. But this isn't the part that made me super upset. So axolotls are critically endangered in the wild. They're only found in the 2 lakes that are shown on screen right now, partially due to habitat destruction, partially due to pollution. They are highly inbred in the pet trade and some of the most adorable aquatic pets that you can have. They are just super goofy, super sweet, but they need very specific care in order to really thrive. They almost always, bar any genetic abnormalities, stay in this larval axolotl phase for their life, known as neoteny. Just look at that little fella. I've been avoiding saying it, but let's get to it. Zak Catch Em thought it'd be a fantastic idea to feed his juvenile axolotls to his catfish. Catfish swallow their prey whole, so it was a horrible, slow, and painful death for the baby axolotl. He also tried to feed one to his frog or toad. I'm astounded that not only was this something that he did, it was something that he filmed, and then something that he put on YouTube, and that YouTube allowed to stay up. It's just a horrible, horrible video, and he's had so much time to think about it and have any regret for it or remorse over his actions, especially after all the comments came in telling him exactly how horrible what he did was. But he wasn't bothered by that. He kept the video up. It's still up on his channel today. You'd think as a fishing channel he would have more respect for aquatic creatures. You have a responsibility to your pets regardless of if they're mammals or not, to handle them correctly, to give them proper housing, and if it's so required for them to be put down, to give them a dignified death. He did none of those things. It just is absolutely devastating to me what those poor babies had to go through. I feel awful about it. Gabsupasture. This is another one you may not want to stick around for if you're feeling a little bit sensitive. So Gabsupasture is a channel I've spoken about before in my YouTubers who lost the most subscribers in one day video. He used to have 500,000 subscribers. Now his channel sits at 130,000 subscribers. It's dead and abandoned, and all his loss of subscribers was very well deserved. So we're going to go into a little bit more detail about what happened with him. Gabsupasture was a veterinary student and pet welfare YouTuber. Although there's no cement proof of this one in the form of videos, we do have the text message exchanges between him and his editor, who was also a fellow vet student. The disclosure of this event was done by Channel A News in Korea. One of the things he was accused of was starving and neglecting his pets in order to gain more traffic for his channel. Another thing he did was say that his rescue pets were from rescues when in actual fact they were from pet stores in order to garner more donations. After the news channel came out with everything, his fellow veterinary students also came out with their own expose. There was a recording that was allegedly Gabsupasture saying that he needed to be less abusive towards his cats. It was said that he starved them of attention and food in order to make them act cuter on camera, to come up looking for more affection and attention. He's also alleged to have kept his dog in an enclosure that was far too small for it for prolonged amounts of time. He's also said to have thrown his cat with both hands when it came up to him looking for affection, and allegedly he bought a hamster for his cat that was allowed to toy with it to the hamster's death, and he said it didn't matter because the hamster only cost a couple of dollars to procure. It's worth noting he did make a video refuting all of these allegations. That video is now deleted, and then he also did a live stream saying that yup, his cats were from a pet store, but denying all of the other allegations that came out and saying that he was going to prove his innocence in court. Gabsupasture was 2 years from finishing his vet degree, and I wish that I could tell you whether he was allowed to finish that degree or what happened with the police investigation after that, but I can't find any information on it, and my apologies. Unfortunately, that's where we end the story. So those were our cases of YouTubers failing their pets, some definitely more grisly than others, definitely on a spectrum, but all things that I found unfair or unacceptable in general. Please give your babies a scratchy and a forehead kiss for me, tell them they're the bestest boys and most gorgeous of girls. I really do think having pets is such a privilege, and it really makes me sad when people take advantage of that. So that's it. That's the whole video. Thank you so much for spending any of your finite time with me today. I really appreciate it. Have a great week or weekend, depending on when you see this video, and I hope you take care. Bye.